Hello, Newport Area Shooting League members. As we prepare for another fun summer of shooting, there's a few safety procedures we'd like to review. When you arrive to the range, you want to make sure that you come with an unloaded firearm, your range bag, and all your gear is ready to go. At the Newport Area Shooting League, our range is considered a cold range. And a cold range is, well, one that has all firearms that are completely unloaded. And as we arrive at the range and we get to the safe station here, we want to make sure that we have our firearm in the bag and our range belt all ready to go. And of course, again, the firearm is unloaded. Notice that the arrows are pointing towards the berm, so you want to keep facing towards the berm as you prepare for the league. Getting your gun belt on and getting it all situated and ready for the day. We want to make sure that we check and review our firearm to make sure it too is in a great working condition. Remembering that we're always arriving at the range with a completely clear and unloaded firearm. You want to make sure you give it a quick function test just to make sure that it is in great working condition and going to be ready for today's activities. And again, I can't stress this enough about making sure that at all times the muzzles are pointed in a safe direction. Here at the safe station, there are arrows on the table to remind us which way the safe direction is. Once we've ensured that our firearm is in fact unloaded and in great condition for today, we're going to insert it in our holster. And now we can proceed to retrieving our magazines. And it is okay to arrive at the league with unloaded magazines or loaded. But if you're going to have unloaded magazines, here at the safe station is a great place to make sure that we load our magazines and get ready for the day's activities. Now that we're at the pavilion, we need to get ready for today's league activities. It's important to remember that at any time that when you arrive at the range and there's live fire occurring, eye protection and hearing protection are required at all times. So with eye protection and hearing protection, you want to consider a few different things. Given the weather and as it changes from each week, clear, amber, or tinted may be an option to consider. It's also very important to consider other safety gear, such as a hat, your proper footwear, your clothing, making sure that it's up and tight around the neck, because if you've ever had a hot piece of brass roll down into your shirt or back of your shirt collar, you'll understand why these pieces of equipment are so very important. Quality hearing protection is certainly recommended here at the range. These ones here are powered or amplified earmuffs, one so that you can hear the spoken word or range commands as they're happening on the line, but also when you're off the line shooting and conversing with friends here at the pavilion, that you can actually hear and understand what's being said. So amplified hearing protection are not required, but certainly they are recommended. And if you need to, you can certainly double up with foam earplugs for extra added hearing protection. Now that we've got our eyes and ears and hearing protection all figured out, now we're going to talk about the target. And as you can see, the target has once again changed as an effort to keep the targets fresh from year to year. Those that have been shooting here since we began will notice that the targets have changed just about every single year. So once you come up to the table, you're going to grab your target. You can simply put your name on it and your team name if you are shooting in a team. This will be your target for the night, which is going to be turned in for scoring once our evolution is completed. So once we have our target, we're going to come down here to the berm, applying your target to the target stand here, just utilizing good old-fashioned clothespins. And again, we're only having 2 shooters per bay, and as you can see, there are 4 bays. So 2 shooters per bay. We're going to come up once our targets are on the berm. We come here to the 3-yard line, and we're going to await the commands of the range officer. Now that we have our targets up and on the line of fire, we're going to come back and prepare to go ready for live fire. So 2 very important things to remember at all times is that we have our eye and ear protection on as we're up and on the line. So we're going to give that command just to make sure everyone has their eyes and ears. And this is an opportunity for all of us to repeat these commands. There are several commands that we're going to be giving throughout the sequence of fire that are important to, one, parrot back to me. One, so that your neighbors standing next to you hear these commands, but also it lets myself and the other range safety officers know that you've heard these commands. So I'll come back to the line, I'll say, eyes and ears.
Eyes and ears.
Thank you very much. That acknowledges to me that you have heard my commands, and we are in fact having our eye protection and hearing protection on and ready. The next command that I will give will be the command to go hot or make ready. So that command is make them hot. This is your acknowledgement point where you want to make sure that you retrieve your firearm, of course keeping it pointed in a safe direction, which here in this situation is either at the berm or down to the ground. You're inserting that magazine, making that chamber hot. If you have a manual safety, that safety is engaged and it is on prior to reholstering that firearm into the holster. It is now back in the holster and the line is now hot and we are ready to commence the sequence of firing. Once we are in fact hot and the line is ready, I will give a command to fire, and the commands generally sound like this. 3 rounds at the 3-yard line, 3 rounds in 5 seconds, 3 rounds, 5 seconds. Is the line ready?
Line ready.
Stand by. An additional safety thing to consider is how we are removing and replacing that firearm to and from its holster. So once a command to fire has been given, we're going to withdraw that firearm from the holster. And again, you can notice that the clothing here is tucked in and well away from the holster. The firearm is removed, keeping the trigger finger off the trigger. The gun is pointed out in a safe direction. It comes on target. The course of fire occurs. And now we are ready to go safe, safety back on, and we're returning it back to the holster. Again, making sure the firearm never points at your body, keeping the finger off the trigger. It is safely returned to its holster. Smooth is fast, and fast is smooth. So we're going to be drawing that from the holster, nice steady up on the command, which is an audible beep. We are presenting the firearm to the target. We are going through that sequence course of fire. That course of fire has now ended. There is no rush to get this firearm back in its holster. We want to make sure that we do a couple things. One, we are re-engaging the safety. Safety is now on. Now we can safely reinsert the holster back, the firearm back into the holster. And we are now ready for my next command. Once the line is clear and all firing has ceased, I'll give the command, and usually is back to me, back to me. The line will come back to the next line of fire. I will give the next course of fire. But additionally, if this sequence requires us to do an admin reload from, and maybe our magazine is running low on ammunition or a cylinder needs to be swapped out with more rounds, we can do an admin reload. And an admin reload is simply removing the magazine from the firearm while the firearm remains holstered. This is a perfectly acceptable activity to do. What we do not want to see is the removal of the firearm to do a magazine change. Once we have left the line of fire and we're setting up for our next line of fire or course of fire, the firearm remains holstered at all times until the command to fire is given. So that admin reload is a great way to top off your magazines, to put a fresh magazine in to get ready for the next sequence. Every year we have several revolver shooters, so let's talk about how to reload for those people shooting revolvers. So if we go through a course of fire, we've shot the 3 rounds or 4 rounds or whatever the course of fire may be, and you want to now change your cylinder out and insert new rounds. You can simply, before you holster, open up the cylinder, take out the rounds, insert your new cylinder or topped off cylinder, closing the cylinder, and then holstering. This will occur from the line of fire before we move from one line back to the next. So there is no removal of any firearms from the holster unless there is a command given to fire or remove that firearm from the holster. Additionally, you may not want to do the admin reload, but you may want to just top off or swap out mags after your course of fire. So in this situation, the course of fire has occurred. He ceased his firing operations. He can swap out the magazine by keeping the firearm still pointed downrange in a nice safe direction. Once he's made that magazine swap, he can then safely come back to low ready and insert the firearm back into the holster. So these are 2 different options for reloads, one for revolver and another option for how to reload a semi-automatic. Another command that's so important and is often overlooked as not being a big safety issue, but it really, in fact, is a great safety concern. for not only your safety, but for everybody here on the line of fire. And that is recovering a magazine from the ground once we've done a magazine change. So if you either ran short of rounds and had to do a magazine change, or it's a course of fire where we are calling for a magazine change, and you've dropped that magazine on the ground, the course of fire has ceased, we've reholstered our firearm, you will remain in this position until the command to recover magazines is given. This is done so that as a range safety officer, we are ensuring that all firing activities have ceased. Everyone has their firearms back in the holsters. At this point, now I will give the command, recover magazines. At that point, you can bend over, recover your magazine, and stow it away properly. We do not want to see anybody bending over, which is actually going in front of the firing line, while somebody else has their firearm out of the holster, which is, again, why we want to stress that it's so important to make sure you wait for the range officer's commands to bend over and recover your magazine. So we've just completed our course of fire. Now we are ready to make our weapons safe and return the range to a cold condition, which is, of course, removing all loaded ammunition from the firearm. So I cannot stress this enough about the proper procedure for going and making our firearms cold. So first, we are, of course, going to remove our magazine, stow it away properly. We're going to lock our actions back to the rear. Noticing here that the muzzle at all times is pointed downrange in a nice safe direction. If you have to, you can simply turn your body 90 degrees so that muzzle stays pointed in a safe direction. A lot of people have to bring that firearm into their body, and if you don't turn your body 90 degrees, you'll inadvertently be pointing your muzzle down the line towards your fellow shooters. And again, I cannot stress, we need to make sure at all times that muzzle is pointed in a safe direction as we're going through any firearm manipulation. Once that firearm has been, the ammunition has been removed, the operator himself has checked to make sure that it is clear of ammunition. The range safety officer is going to go up and double check and inspect to make sure the chamber is clear, the magazine has been removed. The command will then be given to slide forward, and if it is a semi-automatic, the command will be given to let the hammer go down and return it to your holster. Once that has been completed and the whole line has been cleared, I will then give a command that will say, range is cold, you are now clear to grab your gear, which is your term now to go down range, recover your target, and return it back to the pavilion for scoring. Another thing that may arise during the course of fire is either a malfunction or some other safety-related issue, and if that does occur, simply raise your hand, letting the range safety officers know that you are in fact having an issue that needs to be addressed. Either we will cease fire, and if I do call cease fire, everybody pairs that command back and forth. But if we wait till the firing has commenced or ceased, we're going to come up, check to make sure that what issue you do have, and being able to keep that firearm pointed in a safe direction as we go through either the clearage or the stoppage that has occurred, and make sure that we get you back in a safe firing condition. At the Newport Shooting League, we want to make sure that everyone stays nice and safe. If, however, a concern has been observed, expect that a range safety officer will come up, give you some very clear instruction about what to do or not to do. As we prepare for this summer in the Shooting League, we want to make sure that we all have a good, safe time. Thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you at the League.